Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the least important recording projects ever. And this one may be a little controversial because a bunch of you mentioned it as among the most important recording projects ever. It's the Philips Mozart edition. Yes, Philips, the great Mozart, 30 billion CDs, all packaged in a giant wall-sized box-up thing. I don't even have it anymore because it was of the acme of irrelevance. And let me tell you why. First of all, Mozart, in case some of you haven't been around, is a rather well-known composer. All of his major works have been recorded billions and billions and billions and billions of times. Philips put together its complete Mozart edition as part of the Mozart Year celebrations, I think it was. Wasn't it around 1991, something in there? And they gathered together stuff on Universal, not just Philips recordings, because they had to. They had to scrabble around, for example, for the Leopold Hager recordings of the early operas, some of which were very good, some of which were not so good. And there was junk. There was stuff he wrote when he was 3. There were teeny, tiny Mozart driblets and sniglets flying around that were completely uninteresting. And for the most part, there were no major discoveries. There were no masterpieces that we didn't already know about. And there were no performances of those masterpieces that we didn't already know. All they did was cobble together recordings that had already been made for various reasons, virtually none of them for a Mozart edition. They were just done in the normal course of business. And so they packed them all up and they boxed them together and they issued them as a Mozart edition. Yes, it was an achievement. That's a different question, isn't it? It was an achievement of organizational intent and packaging. But was it important? Did it revolutionize our knowledge of Mozart? No. Did it revolutionize the record industry? No, there had been large editions of various things before that. It was a big deal in the Mozart Year. It wasn't even done for particular musical reasons. It wasn't done because we desperately needed a Mozart complete edition. It was done because there was this enormous flurry of activity around the time of the Mozart centennial celebrations, the bicentennial of his death. And so that's why they put it together. It was a good reason. It was a very good reason. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having celebrations for various purposes. But there wasn't any strong musical impetus behind it, and there wasn't any major musical significance to what was in the set beyond what we already knew. And, for me, that's not enough. What I'm looking for in an important edition is something that really gives us something new and different and unexpected, and that tells us something that we didn't know before about the composer. I mean, there was nothing we didn't know about Mozart. Really very, very little. And so, and let's face it, the quality of Mozart's work is highly variable because he wrote a lot when he was like 3. And for a 3-year-old, it's amazing. But, is it great music? No. I mean, even complete symphony cycles, those existed for decades before the complete Mozart edition came out. I mean, go and think about something about that edition that really, really set us on our ear. I can't think of anything. I mean, there were wonderful performances in it, granted, but they were always available separately. You could still get them separately. Most of them are still around separately. In fact, the boxes that the edition came in, they were all, dispersed and sold separately, and then they were cut out and they went out of print, but the performances still exist in their various other incarnations, or most of them, or in budget issues or in something like that. It was not an important effort. It was big. It was splashy. It was well publicized. But important? No, not a bit. Not in comparison to all of the other really interesting, musically interesting and significant things that I'm talking about in this series, at least as far as I'm concerned. So that's the answer to that question. I didn't want to leave you hanging. And I think that the justification is pretty logical. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.